The Urban Institute's State of the Safety Net report, Glock bans being challenged in the courts, union bosses making bank, and insights into stalled economic indicators. Welcome to the States, powered by the Center Square. It's Monday, August 17th, 2026. I'm your host, Greg Bishop. A new tool from the Urban Institute allows users to see just how many people across the country are in each state utilizing taxpayer-subsidized programs for housing, food, and so much more. But it also shows those who qualify often are not receiving assistance across those major safety net programs. Some of the group's findings: 9.1 million people are eligible for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program funding in California, and 54.2% of eligible people actually receive those benefits. In New York, the Urban League found 64.9% of eligible people receive benefits from SNAP. In Arizona, there's 207,000 young children, infants through age 4, that are eligible for WIC, and 57.5% of eligible young children receive those benefits. And in Florida, 915,000 households are eligible for public or subsidized housing, and 19.4% of those eligible households actually receive benefits. Late Friday, I talked with an Urban Institute senior fellow, Linda Giannarelli, about their study and what it all means. Thanks for taking time with us here on The States, Linda. So what is the State of the Safety Net Project?
Thank you so much for having me today. Really happy to talk about the work. So what the State of the Safety Net Project is doing is looking at, as you just said, in every state, how many people and families are eligible for a whole bunch of different programs. And of those who are eligible, what portion of them are receiving those benefits? It's the first time that all this kind of information has been all together in one place across a bunch of different programs and for every single state.
Now, I can't imagine the task of compiling all of this across 50 states. Is it just for 1 year? I think 2023 is what you guys took a snapshot of?
That's correct. Right now, the data are for 2023. We hope to be able to update the data soon, but right now it's 2023.
Still very enlightening as to really, as somebody who's covered local government, state government for years. You hear about all these different programs when the legislature is talking about things, and the federal funds that are coming through, and the taxpayer programs that are helping support these various programs. But you've got 7 different programs. Tell us about, not in super detail, but kind of touch on each one of these different programs.
Sure. So the programs that we were able to look at participation rates for, there's 2 different nutrition programs: the SNAP program, which most people know of as food stamps, the WIC program, which helps mothers of infants plus their babies and their young children, 2 housing-related programs, programs that provide either public housing or subsidized housing, and the program that provides energy assistance, the LIHEAP program, and then 2 programs that can provide cash aid. One that provides cash aid to families with children, and another one that can provide cash aid to people who are 65 and older or who have disabilities.
Not seeing unemployment on this list. What were some of the I guess, qualifications for which program is in this list and which program's not?
Sure. So what we were focusing on here was specifically programs that are what's called means tested, programs that are for families with lower incomes. It would be very interesting to look at this same issue for unemployment benefits, but for right now we were focusing on these means tested programs for families with income below whatever that program's cutoff is.
And a lot of these programs do have different types of qualifications and different thresholds of income levels for a family or an individual to be able to take part in that program. So what did you guys find? What's some of the data telling you, and just how much in taxpayer funding are we talking about?
Sure. So the dollar amounts differ for all the different programs. The dollar amounts also differ for what families can receive in benefits. I would say that the big finding is one that you actually previewed in your introduction, which is that for all of these programs, there are a great number of people and families who are eligible for the programs, but who aren't receiving the benefits. Of the programs that we computed participation rates for, the highest rate we found was in the SNAP program. In the SNAP program, about 6 in 10 eligible people is getting benefits. So even though that's the highest one, it's still only 6 in 10 of the eligible people getting benefits nationwide. And in the program with the lowest participation rate that we found, which was LIHEAP, we estimated a participation rate of 17%. So quite a big range there.
What were some of the reasons why? Is that something you can see in the data as to why there's big uptake with SNAP? I mean, everybody seems to be familiar with SNAP and the SNAP funding, especially during the pandemic when certain SNAP programs were enhanced. But you have a big uptake there, but not so much with LIHEAP, for instance. Is it a seasonal thing?
That's a great question. One of the reasons for the differences across the programs is simply money, funding. SNAP is what's called a federal entitlement program. That means that the federal government is paying the bills, and anyone who applies and who is eligible is entitled to that benefit. So there's no constraint on being able to provide benefits to all the eligible applicants. On the other hand, the LIHEAP program is not an entitlement. Every state gets a set amount of funds every year from the federal government. Every state has to decide exactly how to use those funds, exactly how to distribute them. When the funds are gone, even if someone who is eligible applies, if the funds for that year are already gone, then that household will not get the help with their heating bill.
Now, I know SNAP, it's $100+ billion a year, and states administer it. Is it safe to say we're talking, of course, that's part of these different social safety net programs you guys reviewed here, but is it safe to say there's tens of billions of dollars additional to SNAP that involves TANF or SSI or some of the child funds?
There's a very large amount of funds that are unclaimed or unpaid that families and individuals are eligible for, that they're not receiving.
So let's kind of, we've talked about this somewhat of a 30,000 foot level, right? Let's kind of go into some state data. Are there some states that have larger uptake of these social safety net programs versus some states that don't have as much of an uptake?
There are. We did see a wide range of variation in states. For example, I mentioned the Cash Aid to Families program, which is the TANF program, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. On average, across the country, the participation rate in TANF is about 20%, but there are quite a few states where the participation rate in TANF is under 10%. So fewer than 1 in 10 of the families who their income would qualify them for TANF benefits, fewer than 1 in 10 are receiving those benefits. That's just one example. In all the programs, there are variations across the states, and there's quite a few reasons for that.
Well, and if you could talk about some of those reasons. And again, we're talking about the Urban Institute's review of 7 different social safety net programs, the funding levels of those, and just exactly who may be eligible not getting those particular programs. What are the reasons for that? Is it that they haven't filed, they're not eligible, they lack awareness of it? What are some of the reasons?
So all of the participation rates that we computed were only looking at families who were eligible. So we were only focusing on families who seem like they fully qualify for the programs. As far as why people who are eligible don't get the benefits, lots of different reasons. In some cases, people aren't aware that the program exists. In other cases, they may be aware that the program exists, but they may not think that they are low income enough. They might think, well, that's for people who are much worse off than I am. And so they might not think to apply for the benefits. In other cases, they may be deterred by challenges in the application process or by the requirements that they have to meet. So there's a large number of reasons that people might not know to apply or might choose not to apply. Another factor is the level of benefits that people might be eligible for. So we do know that the higher the potential benefit, the more likely that families will apply and will deal with whatever those hurdles are to receiving the benefit. We also know that the more serious a family's needs, the more likely they are to go through that application process.
So this might be a tough question for you to answer, but is this a good thing or a bad thing that people are, the percentages that you've found here, the ratios that you found here of people who are not taking up on these things or are taking up on these things?
Well, that is a good question. I think we have to think about the goals of the programs. So if the goals of the programs are to support families who need this kind of help, then I think we have to think about whether the programs are meeting those goals. And if large numbers of families who are eligible for the programs are not receiving the help, now, of course, some of them may not want to apply for the program, may fully know, may choose not to apply for the program. But if that's not the reason, if people are being deterred for other reasons, if funds are running out, then I think we have to think about whether the programs are meeting their intended goals.
And just some of the findings you guys did have there with the Urban Institute's Safety Net project here. In 2023, 69.1 million people were eligible for SNAP. The number of eligible people was 21.2% of the U.S. population. 57.5% of the eligible people received assistance. So it kind of shows you, again, some of the, just over half of those eligible were able to tap into that. So fascinating information and definitely something that people can check out at the Urban Institute. Senior Fellow Linda Giannarelli, thank you so much for taking time with us here on The States. Meanwhile, non-governmental organizations administering taxpayer-funded public assistance in Louisiana must now verify recipients' citizenship or qualify immigrant status under a new law that the Attorney General there says is intended to protect taxpayer dollars and combat public assistance fraud. The Center Square, Louisiana editor, Misty Castile, reports Act 795 took effect at the beginning of this month, and it builds on a 2025 law, which requires citizenship verification for people seeking public assistance from state agencies or political subdivisions. The new law, it extends similar requirements to non-governmental entities administering taxpayer-funded assistance. It also creates reporting requirements designed to show how the verification process affects public assistance. At the end of each fiscal year, entities administering federal or state public benefits must report information including the number of people reported to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the number whose public assistance was terminated. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, the state auditor there, Allison Bell, is telling the governor, Andy Beshear, that the state could lose federal funding if the government does not join efforts to stop taxpayer fraud. Ball told the Center Square contributor Tate Miller that over the course of the last 2.5 years, her office has identified and recommended corresponding solutions to over $1 billion of wasted taxpayer money in Kentucky. Ball said that her letter to the governor put the governor on notice that President Donald Trump will no longer tolerate the issue within his administration that allows waste, fraud, and abuse to run rampant in Kentucky's public benefits program. If the governor doesn't address these issues, Ball said Kentucky is at risk of losing federal dollars. An unacceptable solution that Kentucky Republicans and Democrats would be hurt by alike. Beshear's communications director has not yet responded to the Center Square's request for comment. You can follow these stories and so much more at thecentersquare.com. We'll be right back with more.